Okay, the video I wanted to make here is to show a patch I did, which is I think a bit unusual. The idea of the patch is to use the Samarkanda delays to be able to shift part of the music backward or forward to create different patterns. So let me just make something a bit more straightforward for you to see what's going on. Let's do that here. Okay. So here you have a very basic drum pattern coming from the bell grid here. And the idea will be that the sound of the drum comes to the signal router here, which is two crossfaders with some normal routing, which allows some tricks I'll show later. And so this is going through the crossfade, and I use one envelope of the math, of channel 1 of math, to crossfade in between the left and right panning. That's usually this kind of module is used to create a panning left and right. Here I use it to either go on the left side, or what's supposed to be one of the side, which comes here, which is going to be the differential delay, and the other, which is going to be the main delay. So the main delay is the whole piece of music is just delayed by some amount. Here is divided by 2 based on some clock I send him. So some slower time, so it's a bit delayed, but everything could be in there if there was no envelopes. And then part of the signal, only when the envelope comes, is sent to the other trigger here, to the other delay. For now, the delay has the exact same value as the one of the master delay, because the link is on, so that's why we don't hear anything specific. Now the idea is that I trigger the envelope on the snare hit when the snare hits, and so we'll see what comes. So now, as I made the differential delay, the second delay, a bit shorter, it will be moved forward from in the beat. So the idea is just to shift this part a bit forward. I can go all the way. Or I can shift it backward. So the idea here is pretty basic, and what is nice is to use then a pattern of gates to send to the main to the envelope, which is then a bit more interesting than just one gate. Of course, that can be useful. The idea is then to use one of the channel here of the Samarkanda to give some gate that will just be modulated in sync with some clock to create a pattern of gate that will trigger the envelope. And also we'll see what comes when we do that. So we already have a pattern that's completely different than the one before, and a bit more complex, because all the elements can be somehow shifted. We also hear some glitches, which is due of course to the fact that the envelope will hit somewhere in the beat and might not cut at some proper point, because once again it's really the sound that is used and panned in the two delays, sent in the two different delays, and not a pattern of gates. And so what I can add is some sound, some string sound. And here I used this signal router from ADAC to send when it's not the drums that's going to be shifted, it's going to be the string sound and the other way around too. So that's why both sounds seems a bit moving and also a bit together. If I go back to something, to a ratio of 1 on the delays, you see that it's a pretty boring sequence of both drums and string that hits always on the same time, even. And now if I move, we get interesting stuff. We can also, of course, modulate the time on this one. Which creates even more complex drum patterns. Also we can unsync this one and go in analog mode, because the modulation I use here shifts only octaves. So the idea will be, of course, that the beat that is temporally shifted is now also pitch shifted. That's all for today.